Friends, this is my 16th Martin Luther King Sunday with you all, and woof, this may be the most tenuous time we have been in yet. And looking back through my sermons, that is saying something. Things are tough out there. We are living through a crucible moment in our country's history. We are in a time when folks have gotten so siloed, so separated from one another, and so unsure of what is true, that we can have federal troops occupying a whole region, grabbing, beating, and murdering people in the streets, violating laws, and for the majority of the country, life moves along. We haven't stopped working, going to school, and living our lives. In Minneapolis, some folks are going to work and school, but thousands are patrolling their own streets, protesting, gathering supplies to support those who can't leave their homes, making art to lift up their stories, singing, and connecting with each other across difference. And so, what can we do here? In his speech, The Three Evils of Society, in August 1967, Dr. King said, "On some positions, it is necessary for the moral individual to take a stand that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must do it because it is right. And we say to our nation tonight, we say to our government, we even say to our FBI, we will not be harassed. We will not make a butchery of our conscience. We will not be intimidated, and we will be heard." Reverend Ashley Horan is Vice President for Programs and Ministries at our Unitarian Universalist Association, and she lives less than a block from where Renee Good was killed. You can imagine, in the last week, Ashley has been organizing, volunteering, raising and distributing money, I think at least over $20,000 in about 5 days, and being interviewed a lot over the last week. In one of her interviews, she spoke about the organization of folks in Minneapolis in a way that has stuck with me. And I'm paraphrasing, but it was basically, we have been working for years to build trust, relationships, and response plans. And so when folks needed to mobilize to help keep their neighbors safe, they were ready. I don't know that we are ready. I have some good news for you, though. In a time when things can feel overwhelming and scary and out of control, this is actually something we can do. We can connect and prepare. We can reach out to organizations that we have relationships with through Share the Plate and other programming and see who needs help and with what. We can check in with the Berkshire Immigrant Center and Multicultural Bridge. We can go to programs and do the scary thing of talking to strangers, and we can show up where we are needed. Tomorrow, Bridge is hosting community conversations at 12:30 at Solidarity House, and a bunch of additional programming at Mason Library and at Solidarity House. If it's possible for you to go, I would. If you live closer to Pittsfield, the NAACP and Berkshire Community College have programming starting at 10 a.m., and then many opportunities to volunteer and connect with different organizations in the community. And that all starts at Price Memorial AME Zion. This is not a time for going it alone. ICE is staging teams in Eastern Mass, and they are probably here too. They are preparing big operations in Lewiston and Portland, Maine, and folks there are scared and organizing. Clergy are headed to Minnesota for a day of action on Friday, and the strike called for Friday in Minnesota may be expanding farther across the country. As I said last Sunday, there have been times in our not too distant history when state and federal forces have committed or allowed horrific violence against civilians. Oppression and violence has and continues to be rampant, structural, and awful, based in white supremacy culture, history, and norms. What feels different to me right now is that our government representatives feel so emboldened and free of consequences, that they are not only behaving in ways to oppress others, but with impunity to put Nazi slogans on podiums at press conferences, on banners hung from federal buildings, and on challenge coins given to federal employees. There is no longer a thin veneer of dog whistles, but rather a bullhorn of hate and violence. This is awful, but it's also given me a kind of hope. Things are so bad and so explicit that when we get to the other side of whatever happens next, there can be no misunderstanding of what's going on here. Our federal government is using the tactics, language, and imagery of fascists, Nazis, and ethnic cleansing. There really isn't any walking that back. So, if there is some political or legal moment of consequence and change, there is a possibility we could move into a time of truly facing our history of white supremacy culture and how it has been woven into our political and social systems. And I expect we'll do everything in our power to work toward that outcome. In his lecture to the Unitarian Universalist Association in 1966, Dr. King said of the struggle to love, "We will meet your physical force with our soul force. Do to us what you will, and we will still love you. We cannot in all good conscience obey your unjust laws, because non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. Throw us in jail, and we will still love you. Threaten our children, bomb our homes, send your hooded perpetrators of violence into our communities at the midnight hours, and drag us out on some wayside road and beat us and leave us half dead, and as difficult as it is, we will still love you. Send your propaganda agents around the nation and make it appear as if we are not fit morally, culturally, or otherwise for integration, and we will still love you. And one day, we will win our freedom. We will not only win freedom for ourselves, we will so appeal to your heart and your conscience that we will win you. And in the process, our victory will be a double victory." It is maddening to me that so many of the gains made in law and practice in our society over the last 60 years are being chipped away in so short a time. And it's also true that there have been so many people and groups who have been not protected by these laws. The work of Dr. King and the civil rights movement brought the evil and suffering of Jim Crow, lynching, and racism into the light. And around the edges, there was change. But the structures of racism and white supremacy culture remained, from redlining to racist education and justice systems and policing, to gerrymandering, to a failure to pass immigration reform for generations. And so here we are, dealing with what has been festering and boiling for 500 years on this land. Protecting the vulnerable and fighting against fascist policies and practice is a huge task. And the good news today is that we can help. We can make connections with neighbors to be ready for what comes next. We can share our resources of time and money with those who need them. And we can do all of this grounded in love. Anger and fear are reasonable and appropriate reactions to the state of our world, but staying stuck there won't help anything change. When we are grounded in the love that connects us all, we are going to be supported in our work, in our response and actions. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Giving Dr. King the last word, hear these words from his speech in April 1967, Beyond Vietnam. A true revolution of values will soon cause us to question the fairness and justice of many of our past and present policies. On the one hand, we are called to play the Good Samaritan on life's roadside, but that will only be an initial act. One day, we must come to see that the whole Jericho Road must be transformed so that men and women will not be constantly beaten and robbed as they make their journey on life's highway. True compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It comes to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring. So may it be, and amen.